Welcome, everybody. Hour 2 of Good Morning Football Weekend on this awesome Saturday. I'm Colleen Wolfe, kicking it with Reggie Bush, Michael Robinson.
Hey, people, how you doing?
And Mike Garafolo.
What's happening?
You got your cards.
Yes, I do.
That's
All
great.
3 hours, ready to go.
I'm proud of you. This is a big development. We're excited about a lot of these games. I know Reggie is excited about Patrick Mahomes. When you were watching that video, you're like, oh, he can make.
He makes, man, it's crazy.
Baseball background, man. Multi-sports.
Yeah.
Got to do it.
True.
So that's what I got to do. I got to get my son to play baseball.
I'm telling
so
you.
he can go be a good quarterback in the NFL.
I'm telling you.
All right,
Look at Russell Wilson.
Well-rounded. Yeah, that's right. Well, let's kick things off with the NFC playoff picture. You know, it's that time of year where we look at all the scenarios, where everybody is. The Rams and Saints right now on top, followed by division leaders, the Bears and Cowboys. Dallas hosting Philadelphia tomorrow with first place at stake in the NFC
Dallas?
East.
Are they division leader? Look at that.
Yeah, they are. This is a rematch for these two old pals, just 4 weeks after Dallas beat the Eagles in Philly.
It's a good night for a really important football game. This is big boy stuff. Back to throw it over the middle, caught. Snap to Wentz, caught for a touchdown. Zach Ertz. Okay, I'd say this big play. Over the middle, intercepted by Van Der Esch at the 35.
What a play by Van Der Esch.
Hurdles a man at the 30. Still going to the 10. 4th and 1. Give it to Adams. Hit behind the line. The game is over. The clock has expired. Cowboys are back on top.
Want to see it?
Cheesy. Look at how close these matchups have been over the past 5 years. Since 2013, both Philly and Dallas are averaging right around 20 points per game against each other. They're also shockingly similar in yards per game, third downs, and touchdowns. Earlier in the week, and I know, isn't that crazy? Earlier in the week, in anticipation of the big game, Eagles linebacker Grugier Hill.
What's his first name, Colleen?
Camus.
Camus? Okay.
No?
You got it correct.
Grugier Hill. There we go. Just like rolling right through that. Took the opportunity to throw some shade at the Cowboys.
We've been rolling with some momentum, and we feel strong and we feel confident. So it's gonna be a good test, good battle.
And the reality is, you are the champs, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Is that sort of the mentality? Like, we're not out until you knock it from us?
I mean, look at Dallas' history; they always choke. So we'll go down there and make them choke.
All I know is we, and myself personally, I mean, a lot of respect for that team. A lot of respect for that team and what they're doing this year. And, obviously we watch a ton of their defense and game plan for their defense. And like I mentioned, they do a lot of things well.
Look at Wentz trying to reel it back in.
Yeah, got a lot of respect for them. Yeah, it's that rivalry. I mean, it's different in that locker room for both teams this week. Look, there's so many storylines too in this game, and it's almost hard to pick what direction to go into. But after watching the Cowboys beat the Saints, the way that they did, they limited Drew Brees to something like 31 or 36 passing yards in the first half of that game. They made that offense look completely different. What are you looking at, though, in this game?
They did. The defense did a great job at just slowing down the offense just enough, getting a couple of turnovers, getting pressure on Drew like we haven't seen before this season. We haven't seen a defense get that kind of pressure on Drew, really get in his face, make it cloudy and ugly for the receivers. They were contesting every football. So it was a big win for the Cowboys. But I think when you bring it back down reality and you read between the lines, one of the things I took away from that game is both teams have great defenses. But Dak Prescott has to be so much better because there were times in that game where he was holding on to the football way too long, careless with the football, turned it over in a crucial situation in a game where 9 times out of 10, that usually results in a loss, especially if you give that ball back to a team like the Saints with a quarterback like Drew Brees. He didn't handle the pressure well, as we're seeing right here. I thought there were times where the Saints blitzed and he didn't handle it well. So if I'm the Eagles right now, I'm looking at this thing like, listen, we need to put 8 to 9 guys in the box. We have to stop the run first. That has to be first priority, first and foremost. Secondly, get pressure on Dak Prescott. Blitz a little bit more. That's the one thing when I took away from that game, I would have loved to see the Saints blitz him a little bit more because he just didn't handle the pressure well. So, and on top of that, he's been sacked 45 times, the most in the NFL amongst all quarterbacks, and that's just not winning football. So he needs to improve. The offensive line's got to improve if they want to win this football game.
Well, the clips you showed, I mean, those offensive linemen were not holding up their end of the deal either. And when you watch the tape, when you strictly look at the tape, you see Dak not trusting those guys up front. He's escaping the pocket a little faster than he should. He's missing wide open receivers at times. And I think you're right. They do need to continue to run the football. But when I look at the Dallas Cowboys defense, they got after the New Orleans Saints last week, and it wasn't more for just they were more aggressive. Yep. They just took, they took the emotion of the game. They stepped up a lot more than the New Orleans Saints did. And I really think when you look at this Cowboys defense, you got to blitz Carson Wentz. Yeah. The last couple of weeks, and I got some numbers here. In recent weeks, Carson Wentz is only completing 41% of his passes versus the blitz for only a 3.4 yards per attempt, two interceptions, and a 22 passer rating. In the previous 5 weeks, he was 126 passer rating. So, Carson, you got to get yourself together and get yourself straight when you're being pressured. And I think if he can calm down in the pocket, calm his feet down for mostly, I think he'll be a little bit more accurate.
Thing, too, Lane Johnson is back for this matchup, which he missed the first time around these two teams played.
When he plays, they win.
Right. And DeMarcus Lawrence, so we saw what happened when DeMarcus Lawrence went up against Halapuli Vativaitai. And I got that one, right? No problem. But they had to take a lot of resources from the offense and sort of ad blockers to help him on the end there, and they had to scheme differently too.
You know what else they have, Colleen? They have Golden Tate, who they had this last time around. This will be the third time for Golden Tate playing against the Cowboys this year. He's lost the first two. Watch this play right here, okay? This was from Monday night. I talked to Tate about this the other day. He said, Carson was looking at me like, I can't throw it to you where you are. Go up the field. He says, I was looking at his eyes. He was communicating with his eyes. Well, guess what? These two look like they're finally on the same page right here. They're both good at freelancing. A couple of plays after this, another freelance in the back of the end zone. Bang, touchdown. Golden Tate, 7 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. He had a minimal impact against the Cowboys the first time around in his first game with the Eagles. Now they're starting to click. Now you get that kind of production. You say, okay, now that third-round pick was worth it. We'll see what kind of impact he can have against Dallas. I think it's a huge factor that Colleen tried to insert in the Mike Robb report. And Mike Robb was like, no, Mike said.
I'm excited about Golden Tate.
I was with a bunch of the Eagles players last night. It was Golden Tate, Alshon Jeffrey, Camus, and they're fired up. They're excited for this game. They realize the opportunity that they have right in front of them. As up and down as this season has been for them, they realize it's still right there for them to take it, and they have to go through Dallas to get there. And they know they have to go in there and play mistake-free football.
You were at dinner? You guys at dinner?
We went to dinner, yeah.
With Camus?
Yeah, with Camus.
Nobody choked, right?
Nobody choked.
Oh,
Nobody choked.
Call back.
He was in
like
good spirits.
By the way, the addition of Golden Tate, after we just talked about how Golden Tate and Carson Wentz are really like hitting their stride, here are some numbers to look at in terms of Tate being with Wentz from the time that he got traded
there.
The
arrow is pointing up here, right?
I think so too. I mean, this graphic sort of illustrates the fact that like he hasn't been as good, but like their chemistry I think is getting better and better. He caught all 7 of his targets for 85 yards against Washington, plus that 2-point conversion on the touchdown.
You tell the control room.
That QB.
And then he did the worm in the end zone.
Control room trying to undercut me. Colleen says, I got you. Don't need a running back.
That gets us to names and numbers. I'm going to throw out a bunch of big names, and we're going to tell you who will have the bigger numbers. All right, Mike Robb, let's stick with the Eagles and Cowboys here. More total yards, Carson Wentz or Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. For the Philadelphia Eagles to win, they need Carson Wentz to play mistake-free football. And then when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, they lean a little bit more on the run game to win football games. So if this question was about the running backs, I would have chosen Dallas, but it's about the quarterback, so I'm going with Carson Wentz.
Going with Wentz. Okay, Gary.